Orpheus and Eurydice. A love beyond death. The birth of music. In the lush green lands of Thrace, where the winds whispered through ancient trees and rivers sang their eternal songs, a child was born. His name was Orpheus, son of the river god Oeagrus and the muse Calliope. From his earliest days, Orpheus possessed a gift unlike any other. When he touched the strings of his lyre, the world stood still. The birds stopped to listen, the rivers slowed their course, and even the stones shed silent tears at the beauty of his music. As he grew, his melodies became legendary. Kings and common folk alike bowed before his divine gift, and even the gods of Olympus themselves turned their ears to his songs. But fate, as always, had plans beyond mortal understanding. It gave Orpheus the greatest joy, only to snatch it away. The birth of love. One day, as the golden sun bathed the forests in its gentle light, Orpheus wandered deep into the woods. And there, amidst the flowers and the murmuring streams, he saw her, Eurydice. She was beauty incarnate, a creature of light and laughter, with eyes as deep as the sky and hair as dark as the midnight sea. The moment Orpheus saw her, his heart trembled with a feeling even his music could not describe. Eurydice, too, was captivated by him. The melodies he played wove themselves into her soul, binding them together with invisible threads of fate. They fell in love, a love so deep that the trees whispered their names, and the stars watched with envy. Soon they were wed. The entire world seemed to celebrate their union, and even the gods looked down with favor. But happiness is never eternal, and the cruel hands of destiny were already at work. 3. The tragic death. One fateful day, as Eurydice wandered through a sunlit meadow, a shadow crept upon her path. A man named Aristeus, driven mad by her beauty, had set his eyes upon her, desperate to claim her. He pursued her through the forest. Frightened, Eurydice ran. Her feet barely touched the earth as she fled, her breath quick and shallow. But as she raced through the tall grass, a venomous serpent lay hidden in her path. With a single step, fate was sealed. The snake struck, sinking its deadly fangs into her ankle. A gasp escaped her lips. She stumbled, fell, and as the world darkened around her, she whispered the name of her beloved one last time. Orpheus. By the time Orpheus found her, it was too late. Her lifeless body lay still, her radiant smile lost forever. He fell to his knees, his hands shaking as he cradled her. Tears streamed down his face, and for the first time, his lyre was silent. Eurydice was gone, for descent into the underworld. But Orpheus would not accept fate's cruelty. If she was in the realm of the dead, then he would go there himself. Guided only by his love and his music, he made his way to the gates of the underworld, the land of Hades and Persephone. No living soul had ever entered this realm and returned. But Orpheus was not just any man. He was a son of music, a child of divine song. At the dark river Styx, he met Charon, the ferryman of the dead. The old boatman refused to carry the living across the river, until Orpheus played his lyre. With each note, Charon's cold heart trembled. For the first time in eternity, the ferryman shed a tear. Without a word, he allowed Orpheus to step onto his boat and ferried him across the black waters. Beyond the river stood the mighty Cerberus, the monstrous three-headed hound that guarded the gates of the underworld. But Orpheus did not fear the beast. He played. And even the great guardian of Hades, whose teeth had torn apart countless souls, lay down at his feet and drifted into sleep. The gates to the underworld opened before him. The bargain with Hades. At last, Orpheus stood before Hades, lord of the dead, and his queen, Persephone. He did not beg. He did not plead. He simply played. His music carried his grief, his longing, his love. It told the story of how he had found his Eurydice, how he had lost her, and how he would walk through fire, through darkness, through death itself to bring her back. The underworld fell silent. Even Hades, cold-hearted ruler of the dead, lowered his gaze. Last he spoke. "You may take her back, Orpheus, but on one condition." Eurydice would follow him out of the underworld, but he must not turn back to look at her until they both stood in the light of the living world. If he failed, she would be lost forever. Orpheus agreed. 6. The final mistake. Hand in hand, they walked through the endless tunnels of the underworld. Orpheus led the way, listening to the soft footsteps of his beloved behind him. But doubt crept into his heart. Was she truly there? Or was this all a cruel trick by Hades? Her footsteps were so light, too light. What if she was not really following him? As they neared the threshold of the living world, sunlight touched Orpheus's face. And in that moment of weakness, of unbearable doubt, he turned. For a single heartbeat he saw her. Eurydice, his Eurydice, gazing at him with love and sorrow in her eyes. But it was too late. A gasp left her lips, and she reached for him. But her form was already fading. Darkness pulled her back. "Orpheus," she whispered. And she was gone. Forever. 7. The lament of Orpheus. Orpheus returned to the land of the living, but his soul remained in the underworld. He wandered the earth, singing only of loss and sorrow. No more joyful melodies, no more songs of love. His music was now the weeping of a broken heart. Years passed, and one day, a group of Bacchantes, wild followers of Dionysus, came upon him. In a drunken frenzy, they tore him apart, scattering his body across the land. But his lyre did not sink into silence. The gods took it and placed it among the stars, where it remains to this day. Look to the night sky, and you will find it there. Lyra, the constellation of Orpheus's lyre. His music, his love, and his sorrow will echo through eternity. And if you listen closely on a quiet night, perhaps you will hear his song still drifting through the stars. Eternal love, eternal loss. Some loves are so powerful that even death cannot erase them. But sometimes love alone is not enough to defy fate. Orpheus and Eurydice's tale is one of passion, of longing, and of the cruel hands of destiny. And so long as there are hearts that love, their story will never be forgotten. Orpheus and the Golden Fleece. The Song of the Gods. The birth of Orpheus, child of music. In a world where the wind whispered and rivers sang, Orpheus was born. His father, Oeagrus, was a mighty king of Thrace, and his mother was Calliope, the wisest of the muses, the guardian of poetry and epic songs. But Orpheus was no ordinary child. When he was just 5 years old, his mother gifted him a sacred lyre from Apollo himself. In that moment the world changed. When Orpheus plucked its strings, trees bent toward him, the wind stilled, the rivers hummed in harmony. Even the gods turned their heads to listen. Thus, the greatest musician ever known was born. 2. The gathering of the Argonauts. Meanwhile, in another corner of Greece, a young prince named Jason was preparing for an impossible quest. To reclaim his rightful throne, he had to retrieve the Golden Fleece, a mystical treasure hidden in the distant land of Colchis, guarded by a dragon that never slept. Jason gathered the mightiest warriors of the age, forming a legendary band called the Argonauts. Heracles, the strongest of all heroes. Castor and Pollux, twin warriors blessed by the heavens. Peleus, father of the future hero Achilles. Atalanta, a huntress whose arrows never missed their mark. But Jason knew that strength alone would not be enough. And so, he called upon Orpheus, whose music could tame the wild and soothe even the wrath of the gods. 3. The birth of the Argo. The Argonauts set sail aboard the Argo, a ship like no other, built with divine craftsmanship. Its prow held a sacred oak from Dodona, a tree that whispered prophecies. When Orpheus stepped aboard, he plucked his lyre, and the Argo came to life. The waves calmed, the wind found its course, and the oars seemed to row themselves. Thus the great voyage began, for the wrath of Cymopolia. As they sailed the Aegean, Cymopolia, daughter of Poseidon, rose from the depths, her eyes glowing like the storm. "The sea is mine. No mortal shall pass," she thundered. Waves towered like mountains, tossing the Argo like a toy. The Argonauts clung to their oars, but the ocean was too strong. Then Orpheus stepped forward. He plucked his lyre, and his song spoke to the sea itself. The melody rippled through the waves. The storm hesitated. The winds softened. Tears glistened in Cymopolia's eyes. "No music has ever moved me before. You may pass." And so, music conquered even the wrath of the sea. The curse of the sirens. Orpheus' greatest battle. The Argo reached the waters of the Siren Isles. The sirens were no ordinary creatures. Their voices wove a spell stronger than any chains, luring sailors to their doom upon the jagged rocks. At the first note of their song, the Argonauts froze. Their eyes turned glassy. Their hands fell from their oars. Slowly, entranced, they rose to throw themselves into the sea. But Orpheus saw what was happening. He raised his lyre and played the song of the gods. The sky trembled. The ocean quivered. His melody soared above the sirens' call, so powerful, so pure that the sirens screamed in defeat. For the first time, the sirens had been silenced. The spell was broken. The Argonauts awoke, seized their oars, and rowed to safety. That day, Orpheus' music defeated even death itself. 6. The Golden Fleece. The sleepless dragon. At last, the Argonauts reached Colchis, where King Aeetes guarded the Golden Fleece. "It is mine. You will never take it," the king declared. But Jason and his companions were undeterred. That night, they sneaked into the sacred grove where the fleece hung on an ancient oak, watched over by a dragon that never slept. Jason gripped his sword, ready for battle. But Orpheus stepped forward. He plucked a single note on his lyre. The dragon shuddered. Its great eyes, open for centuries, grew heavy. Its breath slowed. As Orpheus' song lulled the beast into the first sleep of its eternal life, Jason seized the Golden Fleece. And thus, once again, music triumphed over might. 7. Orpheus' prophecy and the journey home. The gods were not pleased. Storms raged, the sea roared, and the way home was lost. Orpheus gazed at the stars and spoke a prophecy. "Only if we honor the gods shall we return home." The Argonauts built an altar on a sacred island, offering sacrifices to Poseidon. The storms ceased. The waves stilled. And with Orpheus' wisdom, they returned safely to Greece. 8. The tragic end. Orpheus and the stars. Orpheus returned home, but he was no longer the same man. Neither glory nor treasure could bring him joy. His heart longed only for Eurydice. Some say he wandered alone, playing songs of sorrow so beautiful that even the mountains wept. Others say he turned away from love, devoting himself only to music. The wild Maenads of Dionysus, enraged by his refusal, tore him apart in a mad frenzy. Yet his story did not end. The gods took his lyre and set it among the stars as the Lyra constellation. Even now, on clear nights, you can see it shining. And perhaps, if you listen closely, you may still hear Orpheus' song drifting through the cosmos.